Last week, Henry Kissinger, the energy of Henry Kissinger started showing up in my energy space. And if you don't know who I am a working psychic medium, among many other things. But one of my core tools, my core skills, is psychic mediumship with all kinds of beings on the other side of the light veil. So when light beings show up in my energy space, I'm used to that. But for a very long time, that has pretty much been ascended masters, Star Nation family, archangels, like really high vibrational light beings. And so when deceased loved ones, that's what I call them, when someone who has been on the planet and walked the human life and then crosses over to the other side, I usually refer to them as deceased loved ones. Psychic mediums, we refer to them as dead people. I tend to refer to them as deceased loved ones. So well over a week ago, I started having, thoughts about Henry Kissinger, and then he started showing up in energy space around me. And it was this really weird kind of bungee, like, the whole wah-wah feeling. It's like, a little bit further away, then up close, then a little bit further away, and then up close. It had that energy bungee feeling to it. And I didn't think too much about it because I kind of thought he was showing up for informational purposes for other things that I was working on, like at that point, the energy forecast, because I do a weekly energy forecast. And so when he showed up and I started having certain memories of some of the things that had happened around him, I went and looked those up and, learned a little bit more and then put that into the energy forecast. And I thought it was a one and done deal. I thought, it's in, he goes bye-bye, right? Like, I don't like deceased loved ones. I don't like dead people hanging out in my energy space too much. To me, I'm like, let's take care of business and let's keep things moving, right? Well, after I got the energy forecast done, instead of him leaving, he got stronger. Then there was a chatter on the wire with Spirit Team because I was talking with my Spirit Team going, why is he still here? He should not be here. He needs to go. And the conversation was, well, Dana is probably not going to go until you actually talk with him. Like, talk with him. And in my terms, being a psychic medium, it's one of the things that I do. That means sitting down, raising vibrational space, doing a channel, like an empathic psychic mediumship type channel. And I was like, when this energy and this message began to come through and his presence started getting a lot stronger, I was like, wait a minute. I don't think I'm ready to talk with Henry Kissinger. And on top of it, like, what for? What's the purpose? Like, I'm Virgo Scorpio. So I'm very practical, very driven with the practical nature. It's got to have a purpose to it. I don't usually do things for shits and giggles, right? So his energy was getting stronger. And by Sunday evening, instead of being able to kick him out, like, I could not shut the energy door on him any longer. And I'm like, okay, so it's time to start doing a, psychic mediumship channel with Henry Kissinger. And it was just kind of like, when I finally went, okay, it was like the doors flung open. I started hearing a lot of Hebrew on the other side. It was like energy candles got lit. And for the first time in a long time, I was literally scrambling around the house to get my, my note paper, my pen, my pad. I hadn't done my hair. I had no makeup. Like, I was not ready to be on a camera at that point because I thought this was just kind of like, channel Henry Kissinger. Yeah, right. Sure. What? I'm living on the sticks. I'm going to channel an elder statesman. Okay. Yeah, right. That's going to be a lot of fun. But the moment I felt that part of me go, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah, let's do that. Well, the moment I did that, the moment I gave the affirmative yes, those energy doors flung right open. And so, yeah, I was scrambling around the house, trying to get things set up so that I could, actually be anchored and grounded and be the psychic medium journalist, because in my background is in journalism. I'm trained in journalism. So you put those two together and it puts me in a pretty good position to interview people, especially in metaphysics. And that's very much what it felt like that evening. Like I felt like it felt less like I was a psychic medium and more like I was there to interview him, quite frankly. And that was kind of the role that he took with a lot of people, as far as, that I could tell, that I could see when I watched him on TV when I was growing up, and he was like, he was always around, right? Henry Kissinger, for some reason, he was always around. He was always kind of around there in the background, right? Yeah. So I finally got myself set up. I was just scrambling to do that. It was like I was catching up with the energy field to do that. And once I got all set up, oh my God, like Henry Kissinger came in full force, and just one message after another. Now, I want to be very clear. Here. We talked about public, community, global things. This was not about his private family. And I made that very clear when I was in energy space with him and light beings. It was like, none of this was going to be on the personal, private take for him. Like, that's for him with his family. This is for the channel that happened, and the information that came through was for the betterment of Earth, the betterment of the globe, the betterment of public policy, the better of communication, and quite frankly, the betterment of peace. Like, his main message, like, there were a lot of ins and outs to it, and there was a lot of energy. I got flooded with a lot of energy, but it was primarily about peace. He wanted to talk about peace. Now, this is where I get a little bit quiet, because like when I was in the channel, man, it was real and good and amazing and all this energy coming through, and I channeled it. I delivered the information to the best of my ability as far as for accuracy and intent, right? And it all went really well, and he got to have his say, and I was able to record that and get the prominent notes down and take care of that for him. Like, that kind of felt like the energy agreement. Now, there are a couple of nuances in here about this whole thing, because when I got done and I closed things out, there were a couple of loose ends left with this, like, psychic mediumship channel interview, basically, with Henry Kissinger. And that was, number one, he didn't ask just once. He didn't ask just twice. He asked 3 times to talk with his family. He asked 3 times to talk with his family. And he actually told me a little, like, from what I could piece together, a little bit of a funny story. Not funny for him, but for me, I was like, oh my God, the lengths deceased loved ones go to. Evidently, on the other side, somehow he was trying to get connected up with Tyler Henry, right? And he literally showed me a picture of him being in line on the other side to speak through Tyler Henry, but his family would never show up. His family didn't show up. And I guess, through the grapevine, he realized he needed to be able to do something to set it up to get Tyler Henry's attention. So I think I'm going to be making a separate video just to send a shout out to Tyler Henry and his people that Mr. Kissinger would like to speak with his family. Now, I don't know if his family would be available or they're open to this kind of thing, because, that might be a little off kilter for them. But so one of the requests that Mr. Kissinger had was that he wants to be able to do a communication session with his family to tie up loose ends and create some peace and create some healing for him and his family. So that was number one. That was like one of the themes that kept coming through. And I was just struck by, he didn't ask just once, he didn't ask just twice, he asked 3 times to be able to talk with his family, and preferably through Tyler Henry, if that is possible. And I just find it so interesting that Henry is in both of their names. I think that's just a really wonderful connection there. So that was one of, so after the peace theme, so after the public peace theme that came through, then there was this conversation about, hey, I really want to talk with my family, and that coming up and up and up, that coming up repeatedly, that was number 2. Now, the number 3 part of this is more on my side, and that's the controversy about Henry Kissinger, because in his very long and illustrious career, he did quite a few different things, and he achieved quite a few different things in his career. In part of his career, he did things where he was a part of violence being perpetrated on the planet, and he was a part of that. And then he also turned around and he also created great peace. So, like many of us, he's a very complicated human being. And he also has ties to IPAC, which I have deep concerns about what his role with IPAC was and policy with the United States and Israel. So, I don't come to this at all with rose-colored glasses. Like, that is not what I want to perpetrate here. I want to be very clear that, he's a complicated human being, and there were different things that happened through his life. And now he is coming back, speaking through me, and his main message is one of peace and calling for peace. And so that's a very important part of this, right? And then I also have to throw a note in because, I think my work is beginning to take a bit of a turn, because Henry Kissinger is not the first deceased loved one to show up in my arena in the last couple of months. For those of you who have been following along, I've taken a very hard right-hand turn into the whole art thing and art revolution. And for those of you who don't know, through that, I have had the soul of Jackson Pollock show up. Also a controversial figure, but Jackson Pollock has been floating in and out of my space, coaching me on large canvas splatter painting. I mean, like, I just came in from splatter painting some, green layers on and some blue layers on outside on a canvas that I've got outside right now. And so, this progression of, like, Pollock showed up first to coach me in art, and now Henry Kissinger showed up providing me with information into an energy forecast, and then we did a channel. And I got to tell you, there's a third person hanging out there in the wings. Like, as soon as this all clears, there's a third person hanging out there in the wings. I won't say who he is because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't want to preload it. But it seems that there are some things that are shifting for me right now, and I am beginning to be a bit of a, psychic medium global interview spokesperson for some notable figures on the other side of this veil at this great time of shift. So that is only one of the things that has been going on for me over the last handful of weeks. And now I am here to provide for you the Psychic Mediumship channel interview that I did with Henry Kissinger. You're welcome to pick it up. It is available for a small fee. And, my suggestion to you is if the energy of it is vibing with you, there is probably something in there, a message in there that would deeply affect you right now. It wasn't just us talking. It wasn't just me and Henry Kissinger talking. It was also energies flowing through. Light world came in, angelic presence came in, along with, and I hesitate to say this on the back end, but it also came in with something that I'm calling the Hebrew light letters. So long time ago, like this was right around 2012-ish, when I was really unfolding the whole thing with the magic of somatic money. I'd gone through a spiritual financial intervention, and that was all unfolding. And in the middle of this, I had this very profound experience, like this profound light healing experience with quantum, all I could say, they were quantum light Hebrew letters just swirling around me in energy space. And I had completely forgotten all about that. completely forgotten about that. Forgot about the program that I wrote. I wrote a program that went with it as well that I might dust off and bring out again. But Henry Kissinger reminded me of my quantum Hebrew light letters that I had completely forgotten about, and the Sefer Yetzirah, and some of the Hebrew letter books that I've got in my, on my shelf. I went and pulled those out and kind of looked at those again. And so something is going on with a shift in how we view Hebrew, the Hebrew letters, the vibrational frequency that they carry, the healing power, the vibrational healing power that they have, either as standalone letters or combinations of them. It just seems like part of the reason Mr. Kissinger showed up was to help remind me of those and bring them to the forefront. And I talk a little bit at length in this psychic mediumship session about those. So that might also bring some informational shift and healing through for you as well. So that is pretty much the long and the short of it about the whole talk that I had with Henry Kissinger. Spirit team is weighing in and saying something about, I need to make mention that they're saying I probably will be doing some psychic mediumship with Jackson Pollock. I think it'll be about him communicating some things through him about, him as an artist, but also the information and power to the women who were instrumental in the success of his career. So I think this is a warm-up and a lead-in for that may very well potentially be the next psychic mediumship session that I do with notable figures on the other side of the veil. So this is as much of a surprise to me as it is to you. I am going with it, just kind of like I went with the artwork, and I'm going to have some things unfolding with the artwork as well. So this is all intertwined with one another. We will see where it goes. So sure to pick up Mr. Kissinger, listen to that channel, see what comes through for you. And yeah, thank you for being here. That's what I've got for you for now. And for God's sake, make sure you keep walking forward to meet those miracles along the way. And I will see you in my next video.